Good morning, sixth graders. It is Friday for me anyway, about 6 o'clock in the morning, so I'm excited to be here with you guys. We're going to do the last chunk of our reading for Friday, starting at page 178 to take us to 181.
Friday, 17 March 1944. Dear Kitty, a sigh of relief has gone through the secret annex. Crawler has been exempted from digging by the court. Ellie has given her nose a talking to and strictly forbidden it to be a nuisance to her today. So everything is all right again. Except that Margot and I are getting a bit tired of our parents. Don't misunderstand me. I can't get on well with Mummy at the moment, as you know. I still love Daddy just as much, and Margot loves Daddy and Mummy. But when you are as old as we are, you do want to decide just a few things for yourself. You want to be independent sometimes. If I go upstairs, then I'm asked what I'm going to do. I'm not allowed salt with my food. Every evening, regularly at 8:15, Mummy asks whether I ought not to start undressing. Every book I read must be inspected. I must admit that they are not all that strict, and I'm allowed to read nearly everything. And yet we are both sick of all the remarks, plus all the questioning that go on the whole day long. Something else, especially about me, that doesn't please them. I don't feel like giving lots of kisses anymore, and I think fancy nicknames are terribly affected. In short, I'd really like to be rid of them for a while. Margot said last evening, I think it's awfully annoying the way they ask if you've got a headache or whether you don't feel well, if you happen to give a sigh and put your hand to your head. It's a great blow to us both, suddenly to realize how little remains of the confidence and harmony that we used to have at home. And it's largely due to the fact that we're all skew-whip here. By this I mean that we are treated as children over outward things, and we are much older than most girls of our age inwardly. Although I'm only 14, I know quite well what I want. I know who is right and who is wrong. I have my opinions, my own ideas and principles. And although it may sound pretty mad from an adolescent, I feel more of a person than a child. I feel quite independent of anyone. I know that I can discuss things and argue better than Mummy. I know I'm not so prejudiced. I don't exaggerate so much. I am more precise and adroit, and because of this, you may laugh, I feel superior to her over a great many things. If I love anyone, above all, I must have admiration for them. Admiration and respect. Everything would be all right if only I had Peter, for I do admire him in many ways. He is such a nice, good-looking boy. Yours, Anna.
So a couple of good vocab words here. Superior is good. Adroit is good. Let's see. There it is. Okay. And then of course she uses our word prejudice again in the same way that she used it in the beginning. So she's not as biased as she was, at least she says that. So even though we know she's in hiding, things are getting really tough, she's scared, they're hungry, this is still kind of a teenage issue to go through. She's 14, she'll be 15 in June, so not too far off. Margot, goodness, she's probably about 17. And their parents are still treating them like children at times. We know that they can't share their opinions like adults. She's constantly asking, how are you feeling? What are you doing? Where are you going? Don't eat that. And that's bothering Anne. But that happens in the best of times for any teenager. But, it's weighing more on Anne just because they're stuck inside the secret annex. Let's continue.
Sunday, 19 March 1944. Dear Kitty, yesterday was a great day for me. I had decided to talk things out with Peter. Just as we were sitting down to supper, I whispered to him, are you going to do shorthand this evening, Peter? No, was his reply. Then I'd just like to talk to you later. He agreed. After the dishes were done, I stood by the window in his parents' room a while for the look of things. But it wasn't long before I went to Peter. He was standing on the left side of the open window. I went and stood on the right side, and we talked. It was much easier to talk beside the open window in the semi-darkness than in bright light, and I believe Peter felt the same. We told each other so much, so very, very much, that I can't repeat it all, but it was lovely. The most wonderful evening I have ever had in the secret annex. I will just tell you briefly the various things we talked about. First, we talked about the quarrels and how I regard them quite differently now, and then about the estrangement between us and our parents. I told Peter about Mummy and Daddy, and Margot, and about myself. At one moment he asked, "I suppose you always give each other a goodnight kiss, don't you?" "One? Dozens. Why, don't you?" "No, I have hardly ever kissed anyone." "Not even on your birthday?" "Yes, I have then." We talked about how we neither of us confide in our parents, and how his parents would have loved to have his confidence, but that he didn't wish it. How I cry my heart out in bed, and he goes up into the loft and swears. How Margot and I really only know each other well for a little while, and that even so we don't tell each other everything, because we are always together. Over every imaginable thing. Oh, he was just as I thought. Then we talked about 1942, how different we were then. We just don't recognize ourselves as the same people anymore. How we simply couldn't bear each other in the beginning. He thought I was much too talkative and unruly, and I soon came to the conclusion that I'd no time for him. I couldn't understand why he didn't flirt with me, but now I'm glad. He also mentioned how much he isolated himself from us all. I said that there was not much difference between my noise and his silence, that I love peace and quiet too, and have nothing for myself alone except my diary. How glad he is that my parents have children here, and that I'm glad he is here, that I understand his reserve now, and his relationship with his parents, and how I would love to be able to help him. "You always do help me," he said. "How?" I asked, very surprised. "By your cheerfulness." That was certainly the loveliest thing he said. It was wonderful. He must have grown to love me as a friend, and that is enough for the time being. I am so grateful and happy I just can't find the words. I must apologize, Kitty, that my style is not up to standard today. I have just written down what came into my head. I have the feeling now that Peter and I share a secret. If he looks at me with those eyes that laugh and wink, then it's just as if a little light goes on inside me. I hope it will remain like this, and that we may have many, many more glorious times together. Your grateful, happy Anna. Monday, 20...
So that's something new that we haven't seen. And that just makes my heart happy for her, that she was able to find a friend. It took a long time, but she's able to find someone that she can talk to, that she can relate to a bit. That's one of the themes of the diary. She just wants a friend. She wants someone to talk to. She wants someone to understand her. And he may not understand her exactly how she would like him to, but at least she has someone that she feels she can commiserate with her parents. All right, so that's our last section for Friday, and we'll go to the green packet in just a minute. See you soon.